The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room Taeho had ever seen. It stretched so far that he could not see the walls on either side. The ceiling was made of glass, and through it, he could see 1,000 stars burning in the darkness of space. Each star represented a world. Each world held billions of lives, and today, all of them had come together to decide the fate of Earth. Taeho stood at the human platform. He wore his formal black suit with the small blue Earth pin on his chest. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. He had been Earth's ambassador for 7 years. He had shaken hands with creatures that had no hands. He had smiled at beings that had no faces. He had learned to speak 12 alien languages and had helped write peace treaties that ended wars older than human civilization. But none of that mattered now. The council chamber was filled with representatives from every known species in the galaxy. The tall, gray Ven stood in their section, their 4 eyes watching everything with cold calculation. The Orith floated in their water tanks, their soft blue bodies pulsing with light as they communicated. The Keth sat in their seats like mountains of muscle and stone, their deep voices rumbling whenever they spoke. There were dozens more. Species of all shapes and sizes. Some had wings. Some had tails. Some had no bodies at all, and existed only as patterns of light. And all of them were looking at Taeho. The head speaker was a Ven named Torval. He was ancient, even by Ven's standards. His gray skin had turned almost white with age, and his 4 eyes had lost some of their sharpness, but his voice was still strong when he spoke. "The council has gathered to discuss the human question," Torval said. His words were translated instantly into every language in the room. "For 300 years, humans have been part of our galactic community. They have served as diplomats, doctors, engineers, and soldiers. They have helped build bridges between species that once hated each other. They have given much." Taeho felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps the council would remember all that humanity had done. "But they have also taken much," Torval continued. "Humans are chaotic. They are unpredictable. They fight among themselves constantly. They spread across space like a disease, taking resources and leaving problems behind. They do not respect our traditions. They do not follow our rules. They change everything they touch." The spark of hope died in Taeho's chest. High above the main floor, in the observation deck, Yuna watched her brother stand alone. She was younger than Taeho by 4 years. She had followed him into diplomatic service because she believed in his dream, the dream that humans could be part of something greater, that they could help build a galaxy of peace and cooperation. Now she watched that dream die. "The vote will now begin," Torval announced. "Each species will cast their decision. Should humanity remain part of the Galactic Council? Or should they be expelled?" The Ven voted first. All 12 of their representatives pressed the red button. Expulsion. The Orith voted next. Their soft bodies flashed with light as they communicated among themselves. Then they too voted red. The Keth did not even discuss. Their massive hands slammed down on the red buttons, so hard that the sound echoed through the chamber. One by one, the species voted. Red. 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 Taeho watched the numbers climb on the great display screen. He counted each vote like a wound. Each rejection cut deeper than the last. Some species did vote to keep humanity. The small, furry Neen voted green. They had always liked humans. The crystal beings called the Shen voted green as well. They found humans fascinating, but these votes were drops of water in an ocean of red. When the final vote was cast, the screen showed the result. 67 species had voted for expulsion. Only 9 had voted to stay. The rest had not voted at all. Torval's ancient voice filled the chamber. "The decision is made. Humanity is expelled from the Galactic Council. All human representatives must leave council space within 30 standard days. All human workers must return to Earth. All human ships must exit galactic territory. Earth is no longer welcome among the stars." The chamber erupted with sound. Some species cheered. Others simply watched in silence. The Neen representative was crying, her small body shaking with sobs, but most seemed satisfied. The human problem had been solved. Tejo did not move. He stood on his platform and looked up at the stars through the glass ceiling. 300 years. That was how long humans had been part of this community. 300 years of work, 300 years of sacrifice, 300 years of trying to prove that they belonged, and it had all meant nothing. A Ven official approached him. Ambassador Tejo, you must begin preparations for departure. Your credentials have been revoked. Tejo looked at the official. The alien's 4 eyes showed no emotion, no sympathy, no regret. To him, Tejo was just a problem to be removed. I understand, Tejo said quietly. He walked off the platform. Each step felt heavy. Behind him, workers were already removing the human flag from the wall. The blue and green symbol of Earth was taken down and folded away. It would be placed in storage, forgotten, like humanity itself. Yuna met him at the exit. Her eyes were red from crying, but her face was hard with anger. We should fight this, she said. We should protest. We should make them understand what they are doing. Tejo shook his head. They understand, Yuna. They just do not care. Then we make them care. We show them that they need us. How? By begging? By crying? By proving everything they said about us? Tejo's voice was tired. They called us chaotic. They called us unpredictable. If we fight this, we only prove them right. Yuna grabbed his arm. So what do we do? Just accept this? Just go home and pretend it never happened? Tejo was quiet for a long moment. Around them, alien officials were already clearing out human offices. Human workers were being escorted out of buildings they had worked in for decades. The expulsion was happening fast, too fast. As if the galaxy could not wait to be rid of them. We do something they will never expect. Tejo finally said. We leave. Quietly. Peacefully. Without anger or protests or threats. That is your plan? To just walk away? Yes. Tejo looked at his sister with eyes that had seen too much. We give them exactly what they want. Complete silence. Total departure. And then we let them discover what they have lost. Yuna did not understand. But she trusted her brother. She had always trusted him. In the days that followed, the human withdrawal began. Ships that had patrolled peaceful borders returned to Earth. Engineers who had maintained alien technology packed their tools and left. Doctors who had saved millions of alien lives said goodbye to their patients. And through it all, not a single human complained. Not a single protest was made. Not a single angry word was spoken. The galaxy had expected rage. They had prepared for violence. They had stationed extra security at every human facility, ready to deal with the chaos they believed would come. But the chaos never came. Tejo watched the last human flag come down from the council building. Beside him, Yuna stood with her hands clasped behind her back. Her face showed nothing. They think this is the end, she said quietly. No, Tejo replied. This is just the beginning. They wanted us gone. They wanted silence. We will give them so much silence that they will choke on it. The stars burned cold above them. The galaxy celebrated its victory, and Earth began its long, quiet walk home. No one knew it yet, but the universe had just made its greatest mistake. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, the largest ship in the human fleet. Through the main window, he could see the Galactic Council station growing smaller behind them. It was a beautiful structure, built from metals and crystals that humans had helped mine from 100 different worlds. Now, it looked cold, foreign, like a house that had told them they were no longer welcome. All human vessels have checked in, reported his first officer, Sumi. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. 412 ships. 2 million passengers. We are ready to jump. Do-hyun nodded slowly. 2 million people. That was how many humans had been living and working across the galaxy. Scientists, teachers, soldiers, farmers, all of them packed onto ships now, heading home to a planet many of them had never even seen. Send the final message to the council, Do-hyun ordered. Sumi pressed a button on her console. A simple transmission went out to every station in galactic space. It said only 8 words. The humans are leaving. We wish you well. No anger, no threats, no promises of revenge. Just a polite goodbye, like they were guests leaving a party. Do-hyun had received his orders directly from Earth Command. The instructions had been clear. Leave peacefully. Do not respond to insults. Do not engage in arguments. Do not give them any reason to remember us with hatred. Just go. It was the hardest order Do-hyun had ever followed. He had served in the Galactic Peacekeeping Force for 20 years. He had fought pirates alongside Ven warriors. He had rescued Orith colonies from asteroid impacts. He had helped the Keth rebuild after their civil war. And now those same species had voted to throw humanity out like garbage. Captain, Sumi said quietly. The Neen ambassador is requesting permission to speak with you. Do-hyun sighed. The Neen were the only species that had truly fought to keep humans in the council. Their ambassador, a small, furry creature named Peli, had cried when the vote was announced. But what good were tears now? Put her through, Do-hyun said. Peli's round face appeared on the screen. Her large eyes were still wet. Captain Do-hyun, please. You do not have to leave like this. There are still options. We can appeal the decision. We can. Ambassador. Do-hyun interrupted gently. The vote was clear. 67 species want us gone. We will not stay where we are not wanted, but the galaxy needs you. The humans have done so much. The peace treaties, the medical advances, the trade routes, all of it was built with human help. Oh no. Then perhaps the galaxy should have remembered that before the vote. Peli made a small sound of distress. We tried to convince them. We really tried. But they are afraid of you. They do not understand humans. Your emotions, your chaos, your constant change, it frightens them. Do-hyun looked at the small alien with something like pity. Ambassador, humanity has spent 300 years trying to prove that we belong here. We learned your languages, we followed your laws, we fought your wars and died for your causes. And in the end, you decided we were still too different to accept. Not all of us. No, not all of you. But enough. Do-hyun straightened in his chair. Go home, Ambassador Peli. Take care of your people. And remember us kindly, if you can. The screen went dark. On a dozen different worlds, the human withdrawal continued. At the great hospital station of Meridian, Dr. Ji-woo was packing her medical equipment. She had worked at this station for 15 years. She had saved thousands of lives. Orith, Ven, Keth, she had treated them all without asking anything in return. Now a Ven administrator stood at her door, watching her pack like she was a criminal being escorted out. You must leave all station property behind, the administrator said coldly. Medical equipment, research data, patient files, all of it belongs to the council. Ji-woo laughed softly. The medical equipment was built by humans. The research data was gathered by my team. The patient files contain treatments that I developed myself. 7021. It does not matter. You were working for the council. Everything you created belongs to us. Ji-woo wanted to argue. She wanted to scream. 15 years of work, thousands of saved lives, and they were treating her like a thief. But she remembered the orders. Leave peacefully. Do not fight. She set down her bag and pulled out a small data chip. Fine, take it all. But this chip contains my personal research on Orith neural diseases. I was close to finding a cure. Very close. She placed the chip on her desk. I hope whoever replaces me can finish it. The administrator's 4 eyes blinked. We have excellent scientists. We do not need human help. Of course you do not. Ji-woo picked up her bag and walked out. Good luck. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human teachers left schools where they had taught for decades. Human engineers shut down machines they had designed and built. Human farmers abandoned crops they had planted. All of it done quietly. All of it done without complaint. The galaxy watched with confusion. They had expected humans to fight, to rage, to prove all the terrible things that had been said about them. Instead, they got silence. Politeness. Dignity. It was unsettling. On the eternal dawn, Do-hyun received a transmission from Earth. It was from Taeho, the former ambassador. His face looked tired, but determined. "Captain, how is the evacuation proceeding?" "On schedule, Ambassador. All human personnel will be out of Council space within the deadline." Taeho nodded. "Good. When you pass through the border, do not look back. Do not respond to any communications. Do not stop for anything. Just come home." Do-hyun frowned. "Ambassador, there will be species that want to talk. The Neen, the Shen, they were on our side. Should we not at least—" "No." Taeho's voice was firm. "We are leaving completely. No ties. No connections. No hope of return. The galaxy wanted us gone. So we will be gone. Truly gone." "And then what?" Taeho was quiet for a moment. Behind him, Do-hyun could see workers dismantling the embassy. The walls were bare. The flags were packed. 300 years of diplomatic history being erased. "Then we wait," Taeho said finally. "We wait and we watch. And we let them understand what they have done." Prost. The eternal dawn jumped into hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then they were gone. Behind them, the council station sat silent and dark. In the days that followed, the galaxy tried to return to normal. The Ven congratulated themselves on solving the human problem. The Keth celebrated with great feasts. Even species that had been neutral seemed relieved. But small problems began to appear. A trade dispute between the Ven and the Orith turned ugly. In the past, human diplomats would have stepped in to calm both sides. Now there was no one. The dispute grew into threats. The threats grew into sanctions. A medical emergency struck a Keth colony. A strange disease was spreading fast. In the past, human doctors would have been the first to respond. Now the Keth sent for help and found that no one was coming. Their own doctors were too slow, too inexperienced. A communication error between two minor species nearly started a war. Human translators had always been there to fix such mistakes. Now, the species simply shouted at each other, unable to understand. These were small things, tiny cracks in a great machine. Most species did not even notice them, but Do-hyun noticed. As his fleet crossed into Earth space, he received reports from contacts he still had in the galaxy. Each report told the same story. Problems growing. Tensions rising. Old conflicts returning. "They do not see it yet," Sumi said quietly. "They think they are fine." Do-hyun looked out at the stars. Earth was close now. A small blue dot growing larger with each passing hour. "They will see," he said. "Soon enough, they will see everything." The eternal dawn entered Earth orbit. Below them, 2 billion humans waited for their brothers and sisters to come home. Above them, the stars burned in silence. The galaxy had gotten its wish. Humanity was gone. Now the universe would learn what that truly meant. 6 months passed since the humans left. The galaxy told itself that everything was fine. The Ven repeated this message on every news broadcast. The Orith sang songs about their bright future. The Keth boasted about their strength and independence. But Commander Hannah knew the truth. She sat in her small apartment on Earth, watching the galactic news feeds that still reached the planet. The broadcasts were full of happy stories and confident speeches. But between the lines, Hannah could see the cracks spreading. She had commanded a peacekeeping outpost at the edge of Ven space for 8 years. When the expulsion order came, she had been one of the last to leave. She remembered the faces of her alien colleagues as she walked to her ship. Some looked relieved, others looked worried. One young Orith had grabbed her hand and whispered, "Please do not go," but she had gone. Orders were orders. Now she watched the galaxy fall apart, one piece at a time. The first major crisis came from the trade routes. For 200 years, humans had managed the complex web of shipping lanes that connected the galactic economy. Human navigators knew every shortcut. Human schedulers kept everything running on time. Human negotiators smoothed over disputes before they became problems. When the humans left, the Ven tried to take over. They were smart and organized. After all, how hard could it be? Very hard, it turned out. Within 3 months, shipping delays had doubled. Ships were getting lost in routes that had been safe for centuries. Cargo was arriving at wrong destinations. Prices were rising everywhere. The Ven blamed the other species for not following procedures. The other species blamed the Ven for incompetence. Nobody blamed themselves. Hana's old outpost sent her a message. It was technically illegal. Earth was supposed to be cut off from all galactic communication, but her former second-in-command, an Orith named Bilu, had found a way. "Commander," Bilu's message said, "things are bad here, very bad. The Keth and the Ven are arguing over the border territories. Without you to mediate, the talks have collapsed. Both sides are moving warships into position. We need help." Hana stared at the message for a long time. Then she deleted it without responding. It hurt. It hurt more than she had expected. But what could she do? Earth had been told to leave. Earth had left. The galaxy had made its choice. At the great medical station of Meridian, chaos was spreading. Dr. Jiwoo had been right about her research. The Orith neural disease was still growing, and without her work, no one knew how to stop it. The Ven scientists who had taken over the station were brilliant in their own way. But Orith biology was strange to them. Human doctors had spent decades learning its secrets. That knowledge could not be replaced in a few months. Patients were dying. Families were begging for help. And the Ven administrators kept insisting that everything was under control. "We do not need humans," they said. "We will solve this ourselves." But they did not solve it. The disease spread to 3 more colonies. Thousands of Orith were infected. Hundreds were dying every week. On Earth, Jiwoo received a desperate message from her former assistant. "Doctor, please, send us your research. Send us anything. Our people are dying." Jiwoo had kept copies of everything. She still had the cure she had been developing. It was almost complete. Another few months of work, and she could have saved them all. She took the data chip from her desk. She held it in her hand. All those lives, waiting to be saved. Then she put the chip back in the drawer and closed it. "You wanted to do this alone," she whispered to the empty room. "So do it alone." The second major crisis came from the communication networks. Humans had built half of the translation systems that let different species talk to each other. Human programmers had written the software. Human technicians had maintained the hardware. When the humans left, they took their knowledge with them, and the systems began to fail. At first, it was small errors. Words translated incorrectly. Sentences that made no sense. Confusion and misunderstandings that caused minor problems. Then the errors grew larger. A diplomatic message from the Keth to the Shen was translated wrong. A simple greeting became an insult. The Shen, a proud and sensitive species, demanded an apology. The Keth, who had meant no offense, refused. The argument escalated. Meanwhile, a trade agreement between the Orith and a minor species called the Trell collapsed because neither side could understand the contract terms. Accusations of cheating flew back and forth. Old grudges resurfaced. The galaxy was a web of connections, and those connections were fraying. On Earth, a young programmer named Junho watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. He had spent 10 years maintaining the translation networks. He had written code that let 100 species understand each other. He had solved problems that alien programmers could not even comprehend. When the expulsion came, he had been given 24 hours to leave his post. No thank you. No goodbye. Just get out. Now his former colleagues were sending him frantic messages. The systems were breaking down. They needed his help. They needed his code. Junho did not reply. His roommate, another programmer named Minji, asked him why. "They called us chaos," Junho said bitterly. "They said we were unpredictable, dangerous, too different to trust." He gestured at his screen, where error reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. "Now they see what real chaos looks like." But people are suffering, Minji said quietly. People who never voted against us. People who wanted us to stay. Junho's face hardened. Then maybe they should have fought harder. The third crisis was the worst of all. It came from the borders. For 300 years, human peacekeepers had patrolled the spaces between species. They had stopped small conflicts from becoming large wars. They had negotiated treaties that ended centuries of hatred. They had been the neutral voice that everyone trusted. Now there was no neutral voice. The Keth and the Ven had been rivals for 1,000 years. The old hatred ran deep. But humans had always been there to keep the peace. To remind both sides of what they had to lose. Without humans, the old hatred returned. It started with accusations. The Keth claimed the Ven were cheating on trade deals. The Ven claimed the Keth were violating border agreements. Both sides sent angry messages that were translated badly by failing systems. Then it escalated to threats. Warships were moved. Weapons were powered up. Old generals who remembered ancient battles began whispering about revenge. Commander Hana received another message from her old outpost. This one was not a request. It was a warning. The Keth have crossed the border, Bilu wrote. The Ven are preparing to respond. War is coming, Commander. Real war. The kind that kills millions. Hana closed her eyes. She could see it happening. The same path that led to every great war in galactic history. Pride, fear, misunderstanding, violence. Humans had stopped that path 100 times before. They had thrown themselves between enemies and demanded peace. They had sacrificed their own ships, their own lives, to prevent destruction. Now there was no one to stop it. On the Galactic Council station, Torval the Ven Elder sat in his chamber and watched the reports come in. Trade collapsing, disease spreading, wars brewing, everything that humans had helped build was falling apart. He remembered the vote. 67 species had agreed. Humanity was too chaotic, too dangerous, too different. Now he wondered if they had been wrong, but it was too late for wondering. Earth was silent. Humanity was gone. And the stars were watching their galaxy burn. In her apartment on Earth, Hana turned off the newsfeed. She could not watch anymore. She could not see the destruction she was powerless to stop. We gave them everything, she said to the empty room. And they threw us away. Outside her window, the sun was setting. Earth was beautiful, peaceful, safe, and very, very quiet. The galaxy would have to save itself now. Or it would have to learn what it meant to be truly alone. 1 year after the humans left, the galaxy was on fire. Scientist Minho sat in his laboratory on Earth and watched the destruction through intercepted transmissions. His screens showed images of burning stations, destroyed ships, and dying worlds. The translation algorithms he had spent 20 years building were now completely offline. Nobody could understand anybody anymore, and nobody could stop the wars. The conflict between the Keth and the Ven had spread like poison through water. Other species had been forced to choose sides. Old alliances were broken. New hatreds were born. Battle fleets that had not moved in centuries were now crossing borders and destroying everything in their path. Minho had predicted this. When the expulsion order came, he had told his superiors exactly what would happen. Without human translators, communication would break down. Without communication, trust would break down. Without trust, peace would break down. They had not listened. Nobody had listened. Now his screens showed the results. A Ven battleship destroying an Orith medical transport. Keth soldiers occupying a neutral trading station. Shen cities burning under orbital bombardment. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. The translation systems are down to 12% functionality, his assistant Unji reported. Most species cannot communicate with each other at all now. They are using old methods. Physical messengers. Written documents. But it is too slow. By the time messages arrive, situations have already changed. Minho nodded slowly. He had built those translation systems with his own hands. He had created algorithms that could understand not just words, but meaning. context, emotion. Humans were good at that. They understood that communication was more than just exchanging information. Now, all that work was gone, erased by species that thought they could do better on their own. "Have there been any requests for help?" Minho asked. Unji checked her screens. "Thousands. Every day, we receive messages begging for assistance. The Orith want medical help. The Neen want protection. Even some Ven commanders have sent private messages asking for human peacekeepers. And our response? Silence. As ordered." Minho stood up and walked to his window. Outside, the sun was shining on green fields and blue oceans. Earth had never looked more beautiful. While the galaxy burned, humanity's home was at peace. It did not feel like victory. On the Galactic Council station, Torval was dying. The old Ven had lived for over 1,000 years. But the stress of the past months had broken something inside him. His 4 eyes had grown dim, his gray skin had turned almost white. He spent most of his time in his chamber, watching reports and regretting the vote. That terrible vote. He had been so sure it was the right decision. Humans were chaotic, dangerous, different. Removing them would make the galaxy safer. Instead, it had destroyed everything. A young aide entered his chamber. "Elder Torval, the council is requesting your presence. The emergency session is about to begin." Torval laughed weakly. Emergency sessions. That was all the council did now. One crisis after another. One war after another. One failure after another. "Tell them I am coming," he said. The council chamber looked different now. Half the platforms were empty. Species that had been members for millennia were now at war with each other. They could not sit in the same room anymore. The Keth section was dark. The Keth had officially left the council after the Ven accused them of war crimes. The Orith section was mostly empty. Their representatives had gone home to deal with the disease that was still killing thousands every week. Torval took his place and looked around. This room had once held the power of a galaxy. Now it held only fear and failure. "We must discuss the human question," said a Shen representative, her crystal body glowing with agitation. "There is no human question," snapped a Ven commander. "The humans are gone. That matter is closed. That matter is the cause of everything." The Shen's glow turned angry red. "Since the humans left, we have had 17 major conflicts. The trade networks have collapsed. The medical systems are failing. The translation networks are dead. We are destroying ourselves. We do not need humans," the Ven commander insisted. "We are perfectly capable of solving our own problems. Then why have we not solved them?" Silence fell over the chamber. It was a question nobody wanted to answer. Torval raised his ancient hand. Perhaps we should consider reaching out to Earth. A request for assistance. Nothing permanent. Just help." The Ven commander turned on him with fury. "You voted for expulsion yourself. You gave the speech that condemned them. And now you want to beg them for help?" "I want to save what remains of our civilization," Torval said quietly. "Pride is worthless if we are all dead." The debate continued for hours. Some species agreed with Torval. Others refused to even consider it. The Keth, who were monitoring the session from their ships, sent a message saying they would rather die than ask humans for anything. In the end, no decision was made. The council was too broken to agree on anything. On Earth, Tejo received a full report of the council session. He read it in his office, the same office where he had once prepared for diplomatic meetings that would shape the galaxy. His sister Yuna sat across from him. She had changed in the past year. The anger that had burned in her after the expulsion had faded into something colder, harder. "They actually discussed asking us for help," she said. "Can you believe that? After everything they did? They think we might come back?" Tejo set down the report. "Some of them genuinely want to fix this. The Shen, the Neen, others. They never wanted us gone. But they did not stop it either. No, they did not." Yuna stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see children playing in a park. Normal life. Peaceful life. The life that humans had always wanted, even when they were serving across the galaxy. "We have received direct messages from Orith medical officials," she said. "They are begging for Dr. Jiwoo's research. The disease has killed over 50,000 of them now." "I know. And Minho's translation algorithms could stop half the wars that are happening. The Keth and Ven conflict alone has killed millions. One human programmer could save millions of lives." "I know." Yuna turned to face her brother. "Then why are we not helping? We have the power to stop this. We have the knowledge, the skills, everything they need." Taeho was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with exhaustion. "Because they need to understand. They need to truly understand what they did. Not just regret it, not just apologize for it, but understand it in their bones. Understand that we were never the chaos they feared. We were the glue that held everything together. And how many have to die before they understand? I do not know." Taeho closed his eyes. "But if we help them now, they will forget. They will thank us, and then, in 100 years or 1,000 years, they will do the same thing again. They will decide we are too different, too dangerous, too human. So we let them burn? We let them see the truth. And when they finally understand, when they truly understand, then we will talk." The stars were going dark. Not literally, of course. They still burned in the sky. Billions of points of light scattered across infinity. But the civilization that had grown beneath them was dying. Trade routes had stopped. Communication had stopped. Trust had stopped. Species that had been partners for millennia were now enemies. Stations that had been built for peace were now wreckage floating in space. The great web of galactic society was falling apart, thread by thread, and Earth sat in silence, watching it all happen. Minho turned off his screens. He could not watch anymore. "They called us chaos," he whispered to himself. But we were the only thing keeping the chaos away. Outside his window, the sun was setting. Another day of silence. Another day of waiting. The galaxy was learning its lesson, the hard way. 2 years after the expulsion, the galaxy finally broke. The great war between the Keth and the Ven had ended not in victory, but in exhaustion. Both species had lost so much that there was nothing left to fight for. Their fleets were destroyed. Their worlds were burned. Their populations were shattered. Other conflicts had ended the same way. Species that had been proud and powerful were now broken and empty. The stations that had connected the galaxy were abandoned. The trade routes were silent. The communication networks were dead. The Galactic Council met one final time. Not to argue, not to blame, just to admit the truth that everyone already knew: they had destroyed themselves. Torvald stood at his platform for the last time. He was so old now that he needed help to walk. His 4 eyes could barely see. But his voice was still strong enough to be heard. "We have made a terrible mistake," he said. "Not just a mistake in judgment, but a mistake in our very understanding of who we are. We thought we were strong. We thought we were wise. We thought we did not need anyone." He paused, gathering his strength. "We were wrong. About all of it." The chamber was silent. No one argued. No one defended themselves. They were all too tired for that. "The humans were never our problem," Torvald continued. "They were our solution. Every crisis they solved, every peace they kept, every connection they built, we took it all for granted. We saw their chaos and feared it. We did not see that their chaos was actually creativity, adaptation, the ability to change and grow, and help others change and grow." He looked around the broken chamber. So many empty seats. So many lost friends. So many dead worlds. "I do not know if they will forgive us. I do not know if they should. But I know that we must ask. We must humble ourselves completely and ask for their help. Not because we deserve it, but because we have no other choice." The vote was held. For the first time in galactic history, it was unanimous. On Earth, Yuna received the transmission. She listened to Torvald's words. She watched the vote. She saw the faces of dozens of species, all of them broken, all of them begging. Then she walked to her brother's office. Tejo was standing at his window, looking out at the stars. He already knew what had happened. He had been waiting for this moment for 2 years. "They want to talk," Yuna said. "Yes. What do we say?" Tejo did not answer immediately. He thought about all the humans who had been hurt by the expulsion, the doctors who had been thrown out of hospitals, the teachers who had been removed from schools, the peacekeepers who had been told their service meant nothing. He thought about Commander Hana, who still woke up screaming from nightmares about wars she could have stopped. He thought about scientist Minho, who had watched millions die because his translation algorithms were deleted. He thought about Dr. Jiwoo, who had locked away a cure that could have saved thousands. They had all suffered. They had all sacrificed. They deserved an answer. "Prepare a broadcast," Tejo finally said. "I want to speak to the entire galaxy." The transmission went out from Earth at the speed of light. It reached every station, every ship, every world that still had the power to receive it. Across the broken galaxy, survivors gathered around screens to watch. Yuna stood at the center of the broadcast room. Behind her, the flag of Earth hung in perfect stillness. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. "This message is for everyone who can hear it, for the Ven and the Keth, for the Orith and the Shen, for the Neen and all the others, for everyone who voted to send us away, and for everyone who tried to make us stay." She paused, letting the words settle. "2 years ago, you asked us to leave. You said we were too chaotic, too unpredictable, too different. You said the galaxy would be better without us." In the ruins of a Ven colony, survivors watched her face on a cracked screen. "We did not argue. We did not fight. We simply left. We gave you exactly what you asked for. Complete silence, total departure, in the wreckage of a Keth battleship." Wounded soldiers listened to her voice. "Now you have seen what the galaxy looks like without humans. You have seen your trade routes collapse, your communication fail, your diseases spread, your wars burn. You have watched your civilization tear itself apart." In the empty council chamber, Torval wept as he listened. "You wanted silence. We gave it. Now listen to what you lost." Yuna stepped closer to the camera. Her eyes were hard, but not cruel. They held something deeper. Something like sadness. "You lost our doctors, who would have cured your diseases. You lost our engineers, who would have fixed your systems. You lost our diplomats, who would have ended your wars. You lost our teachers, our scientists, our dreamers, our builders. You lost everything that made your galaxy work." She let the words hang in the air. "And now you want us back. After 2 years of destruction, after millions of deaths, after you have proven beyond any doubt that you cannot survive without us. Now you remember our value." The galaxy held its breath. "We have heard your request. We have discussed it among ourselves. And we have made a decision." On Earth, 2 billion humans waited. In space, thousands of species waited. The future of an entire civilization hung on Yuna's next words. "We will help you." Relief washed across the galaxy. In broken stations, survivors embraced. In ruined cities, people cried with joy. The nightmare was over. But Yuna was not finished. "We will help you," she repeated. "But we will never forget what happened here. We will never forget how quickly you turned on us. How easily you threw away 300 years of partnership. How little our sacrifice meant to you." Her voice grew harder. "We will rebuild your communication networks. We will cure your diseases. We will end your wars. We will do everything we always did. But this time, you will remember. This time, you will understand. This time, you will know exactly what we are worth." She straightened her shoulders. "We are not your servants. We are not your tools. We are your partners, your equals, your friends. And the next time you think about throwing us away, remember these 2 years. Remember the silence. Remember the darkness. Remember the death." She paused one final time. "We are humans. We are chaotic and unpredictable and different. That is our strength. That is what makes us valuable. And if you ever forget that again, we will not be here to remind you. The transmission ended. In his office, Tejo watched the galaxy react to his sister's words. There was relief, yes, but also shame, and deep beneath the shame, a new understanding. Humans were not the chaos they had feared. Humans were the order they had needed all along. The stars went quiet that day. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of listening, of learning, of finally understanding. And when the human ships began to return to the galaxy, when the doctors and engineers and diplomats stepped back onto the stations they had built, there was no celebration, no ceremony, just a quiet gratitude that needed no words. Earth had walked away. The stars had gone silent. And in that silence, the galaxy had finally learned to hear. Captain Do-hyun piloted the first ship back into galactic space. Beside him, Commander Hana watched the stars with eyes that had seen too much. "Do you think they will remember?" she asked. Do-hyun thought about the question for a long time. "No," he finally said, "but we will, and the next time they forget, we will remind them." The stars burned ahead of them. Countless worlds waiting to be healed. Countless problems waiting to be solved. Humanity was going back to work, and this time, they would not be taken for granted.